And so let's get into it. This was a standard squash match. You had Samoa Joe, Wardlow taking on our best friend, Cutie Marshall and Nick Camarado. Nothing really, to write home about. Joe gets the victory. But after the match, Wardlow goes for a power bomb on Cutie, and the Embassy comes out. What do you think about the Embassy getting more TV time? And again, an RoH talent on AEW when you got people like Eddie Kingston just sitting around.
Yeah, I know RoH is going to be a thing, and they keep trying to show it, but I'm stalled out. Man, I'm stalled out with Wardlow even. I'm stalled out with Joe. I'm stalled out with all this RoH stuff. I know there's stories there. I know they're trying to tell stories, but all of it just feels like I could have missed it. I kind of forgot it happened until you just started saying it, and I don't know, unless they're going to bring a real powerful punch of a storyline here. I just kind of am not, it's something I can skip if I don't have the time.
Yeah, side note before we get into more of the fallout from the match, someone who I typically read just because I like their thoughts, because they also don't go behind the curtain, right? It's not like, well, because of the contract status, this is why the loss. Like, shut the fuck up. I just want to watch TV and tell me what you thought about the TV show. This person, though, counted 16 championships made an appearance on last night's episode of Dynamite. 16 championships.
That's a lot.
Not 16 championship matches, but 16 different titles were held either by FTR, Wardlow, Samoa Joe, John Moxley, all the stuff. So thought that was interesting. Maybe that should tell you, let's get RoH their own TV show yesterday. However, let's go back to the fallout from this. So the Embassy walks out, and they're talking their smack. And before they could even really, get the advantage over Wardlow, FTR comes out and they get a monster pop because they're still the best tag team of the year. All credit to the Acclaim. Look, everybody loves the Acclaim. I got the damn shirt on. However, the tag team of the year is still FTR. They're out of this world over with everyone. Yeah. So thought that was
great.
Scissoring
is up there. It might be a 1A,
Scissoring is great. But again, we've talked about this.
Look at this man's ass. Look how over that is.
I got to join our YouTube because I actually don't know what you're referencing. Well, what I think is how I've mentioned the Acclaim before.
Now you should be able to see it. Look at that man's ass.
There it is.
How over is that?
What I think, again, is, FTR is the Dudley Boys, if you go back to the Attitude Era, right, where it's good in-ring action. Now, the Dudley Boys were a little bit more hardcore, but you understand what I'm saying. The analogy is good matches came from the Dudleys, where the good, fun spots and the things you said at school came from the New Age Outlaws, which is your Acclaim for this week or for this time period. But let's get again back into what FTR is talking about. They said, hey, we don't want to get Joe back in here because they just wrestled. So Friday night, it's FTR versus the Embassy, and FTR is going to bring back a good old friend. And here comes Canadian's own. Do you like that? Canadian's own?
Canadian.
Shawn Spears.
Yes.
Which, Tim, makes no fucking sense. It makes no fucking sense.
It makes no fucking sense, but Shawn Spears is one of those guys that every time I see him, I'm like, all right, I like this guy. I can't even really explain it, but I love him.
I think Shawn Spears is wonderful. I think when Shawn Spears makes his return to help his pinnacle pals, FTR, I'm still on board. But then when Shawn Spears gives a good old hug to Wardlow, you lost me.
Yeah,
because the last fucking time we saw Shawn Spears, he was the accountability buddy of Wardlow.
Yeah.
This is some WWE shit.
Yeah, outside of they should address it and they should say something. But it could even be something as simple as oh man, I talked to Shawn Spears today, Excalibur. It's try to catch him backstage, and he told me that he's kept in touch with all these guys, phone, text, and they've all seen the light about MJF or whatever. You know what I mean? That kind of shit, right? Fine, whatever. I think something simple. At least give me something, right?
Well, I think the pivot, and again, if I had the pencil and 2020's hindsight and all of that, I would have looked at this script and said, oh shit, we're going to have Shawn Spears walk in the ring buddy buddy with Wardlow. And the last time we saw him, they obviously were not buddy buddy. So what I would have done is pulled the Eddie Kingston move, because again, Eddie Kingston is the greatest professional wrestler in the world, and everyone should know that and look to him for their guidance. What he did when Claudio Castagnoli made his debut is say, what the fuck? I don't like this guy. And he got out of the ring and he talked to John Moxley. He's like, what the fuck is that shit? And they addressed, hey, there's still some hard feelings here. And that's what Wardlow should have done. Wardlow should have looked and like, guys, what the no?
Well, I mean, if nothing else, Wardlow's kind of just like standing back, like, I mean,
right.
like Wardlow knows, like, I got you, motherfucker. If you try this again,
exactly.
But Spears could have been like,
be cool,
hey man,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, still, like,
but
you
again,
know what I mean? The stare down could have gave me the stare down. Even if you had one of those where it was like, you know what I mean? And they're just, and you know what I mean? They're just like, all right, fine, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, little fucking like, all right, fine, whatever. Like a, you know, like a, I don't really want to do this, but whatever, handshake. I'm helping my boys out. They say you're the, you know, like that kind of thing at least is better than nothing.
That's what I'm getting at, is because we just went buddy buddy and everything's great. AEW has done such a great job of paying attention to the details and remembering their history. And this was one of the times that they didn't. And that's why I guess I'm so disappointed, because they've had such a good track record. And as I mentioned, this is so much of a WWE move. Well, hey, people are cheering, so now we're friends because the fat neckbeard guys like us, so we're friends now too. Dumb. So on Friday, we will get FTR and Shawn Spears taking on the Embassy. So let's see how that goes. We shall see. Again, we're recording this on a Thursday night. We haven't seen
the whole thing. Here's how it's going to go. The AEW guys are going to win, and the ROH guys, we're going to forget they exist.
We like the ROH guys. You like the Gates of Agony look.
Yeah, sure.
And Brian Cage.
They're not going to do nothing.
Well, but that's because that's how they're positioned. But at least from potential, they have something there.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind watching them on an ROH show.
Yeah. And that's what I think. All of this ROH talent is amazing and wonderful and great. I just don't want to see it on AEW. Kind of like how I appreciate New Japan Pro Wrestling. There's people over there that I definitely respect, like Minoru Suzuki and the Great Muda, but I don't necessarily always want to see them in AEW.
It's just this. It's like they could. I understand that, like, they're the same guy. Like, if Brian Cage was still an AEW guy, it wouldn't be any different than Brian Cage on my TV as AEW guy versus whatever label ROH guy. But the point of the whole ROH show versus AEW show is that I understand that these are ROH people. These are ROH titles, so that this isn't going to stick around. This isn't a story I'll be able to, like, follow long term and care about. And, like, the implications I won't be felt on this AEW program that I'm watching, right? So now that's why I feel like I don't need to see this.
I like that.
Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like,
it does. Just, yeah, no.
There's no object permanence.
Look at that.
The big words here on the Spanish table.
Credit to you, Tim. I like that.
Right.
You had your dictionary today.
Yeah.
Hey, let's get back into the action.